Hello there, my sleepy quest fellows. Tonight, we journey to the gentle hills and cozy homes of the Shire, where the warmth of the season embraces every Hobbit hole. It is Christmas Eve in this peaceful corner of Middle-earth, a time when friends gather, laughter fills the air, and the aroma of hearty feasts drifts on the breeze. Let us step into the world of hobbits, where the flicker of lantern light and the soft glow of winter stars create a magical backdrop for the festivities. In a snug little hole under a hill, a hobbit named Almaric Greenhill is preparing for a gathering unlike any other, a celebration of friendship, stories, and the simple joys of the season. As the Shire settles into a peaceful hush and the snow-dusted hills glimmer under the moonlight, I invite you to let your worries slip away. Rest your mind. Ease into the quiet rhythm of this tale and let the soothing spirit of Christmas Eve in the Shire guide you into a world of comfort and dreams. Before we dive into the warmth and wonder of this festive tale, please consider becoming part of our growing community by giving this video a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. Now, let's return to the Shire on this magical Christmas Eve. The snow is softly falling, the fireplaces are glowing, and the hobbit holes are filled with the scents of baked goods and holiday cheer. Tonight, we'll follow Almaric Greenhill as he prepares for a memorable celebration, weaving together food, friends, and a sprinkling of holiday magic. Almaric Greenhill, a hobbit of great cheer and even greater culinary skill, stood at the door of his hobbit hole, gazing out at the Shire blanketed in soft, glistening snow. His round face was rosy with warmth, framed by tufts of curly brown hair, and his bright eyes twinkled with the excitement of the evening ahead. Known among his kin for hosting the most delightful gatherings, Almaric loved nothing more than bringing together neighbors and friends for feasts that celebrated the simple joys of hobbit life. The Shire on Christmas Eve was a sight to behold. The snow had laid a gentle hush over the rolling hills, and golden light spilled from the round windows of hobbit holes, illuminating the soft drifts outside. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, carrying the scent of wood smoke and roasted chestnuts through the air. The pathways were lined with lanterns glowing faintly, their light reflecting off the frost-covered hedges and giving the scene an enchanting, magical quality. Inside Almaric's cozy home, preparations for the evening were well underway. The round wooden table in the center of his kitchen was laden with treats: mince pies, sugared nuts, candied fruits, and loaves of freshly baked bread still warm from the oven. A steaming kettle of spiced cider sat by the hearth, filling the room with its festive aroma. Around him were scattered the tools of his trade: rolling pins, mixing bowls, and jars of honey and preserves. Yet, amid all the bustle, there was a hint of something more in Almaric's mind. He glanced at the corner of the room, where a beautifully carved wooden box rested on a stool. This box, passed down through generations of Greenhills, held a special recipe said to bring joy and luck to any who shared it. Tonight, for the first time, Almaric planned to bring this recipe to life. A plum pudding infused with a touch of Hobbit lore, set to fill the hearts of those who tasted it with warmth and wonder. As Almaric moved about his kitchen, he hummed a merry tune, his anticipation building with each stir and fold of the dough. Little did he know, this festive evening would bring not only laughter and good company, but also a small, magical surprise that would linger in the hearts of his guests long after the feast was done. As the Shire prepared for Christmas Eve celebrations, Almaric Greenhill busied himself with the final preparations for his grand feast. The warm, golden light spilling from his hobbit hole contrasted with the frosty twilight outside, where snowflakes danced in the gentle breeze. His neighbors passed by, exchanging cheerful greetings and carrying baskets of treats and trinkets for the evening ahead. Yet, Almaric's thoughts remained fixed on the small, carved wooden box resting in the corner of his kitchen. The box held the recipe for the fabled plum pudding of the Greenhill family. It was said to be more than just a dessert. It carried with it the magic of shared happiness and the ability to fill even the coldest winter nights with warmth. As the eldest of his line, Almaric had inherited the box, but he had never attempted to make the pudding. Until now, with the box before him, Almaric carefully lifted the lid, revealing a parchment that seemed almost to glow in the dim light of his kitchen. The recipe was written in delicate script, interwoven with symbols that hinted at old Hobbit lore. His eyes scanned the ingredients: dried fruits, molasses, a pinch of cinnamon, and something unusual, a handful of starflower petals, which only bloomed in a hidden grove deep within the Shire. The mention of starflower made Almaric pause. He had heard of the flower in bedtime tales as a child, said to grow in the shadows of the ancient oaks near the Brandywine River. The petals were said to glisten faintly, as though touched by starlight, and were thought to bring a spark of magic to any dish they graced. To complete the recipe, Almaric would need to find these elusive blooms before the feast began. Determined to honor his family's tradition, Almaric bundled himself in a thick cloak, tucked the recipe into his pocket, and stepped into the snowy twilight. The path through the Shire, though familiar, felt different on this special evening. The soft crunch of snow underfoot, the faint laughter of hobbit children in the distance, and the golden glow of lanterns all seemed to carry a sense of expectation, as though the very air hummed with festive magic. The journey led him past the familiar sights of the Shire, the rolling hills, the hedgerows sparkling with frost, and the stone bridges arching over frozen streams. Each step took him further from the bustling warmth of his home and deeper into the quiet, untouched beauty of Middle-earth. The snow grew thicker as he neared the woods by the Brandywine, and the trees stood tall and silent, their branches heavy with snow. As Almaric entered the grove, the air seemed to change. The usual chatter of birds and rustle of leaves gave way to an almost sacred stillness. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting a silvery glow on the forest floor. And then, just as he began to doubt his quest, he saw them, the starflowers, their delicate petals shimmering faintly as though lit from within. Kneeling carefully, Almaric gathered the petals with reverence, mindful of the stories that spoke of their rarity and the magic they carried. As he placed the petals into a small pouch, he couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder, as though the spirit of the Shire itself had guided him to this moment. With his task complete, he retraced his steps through the snowy forest, the starflowers safely tucked away, and his heart filled with excitement for the feast to come. Back in his kitchen, with the petals added to the batter, the pudding mixture seemed to radiate a faint warmth. As Almaric slid the pudding into the oven, he felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing he was about to bring a touch of Shire magic to his neighbors and friends. The night ahead promised not only good food and laughter, but a shared experience that would linger in their hearts, much like the glow of the lanterns on a frosty Christmas Eve. As the warm, comforting aroma of the Shire kitchens filled the air, Almaric Greenhill checked on his creation. The pudding baked gently in the oven, its subtle fragrance of cinnamon and molasses mingling with the sweetness of dried fruits. Yet the magical starflower petals he had carefully gathered lent an unfamiliar but delightful hint to the aroma, a fragrance that carried a mysterious allure. For a moment, he stood in awe of what was unfolding in his little kitchen. However, as Almaric wiped the flour from his hands and leaned back, a soft knock echoed through his Hobbit hole. Opening the door, he was surprised to see an elderly Hobbit he didn't immediately recognize, wrapped in a heavy cloak against the winter chill. The Hobbit's face was weathered but kind, his eyes twinkling as if he carried the spirit of the Shire itself. "Evening to you, young Almaric," the Hobbit said, his voice carrying a calm authority. "I hear you've decided to prepare the Greenhill pudding tonight." Almaric tilted his head in surprise. "How did you know that?" The elder chuckled softly. "The Shire has a way of knowing such things, and I'm here because the starflower petals you've added carry more magic than even the old tales say." Curiosity flickered in Almaric's chest as the elder stepped inside, shaking off the snow. He gestured for the elder to sit by the fire, offering a warm cup of tea. As the elder settled into the chair, he began to tell a story that made Almaric's eyes widen with wonder. The starflower petals, it seemed, were a gift of Yavanna herself, the Valar who cherished all growing things. Long ago, it was said, Yavanna had scattered these rare blooms across Middle-earth, their magic intended to bring joy and healing wherever they were used. But their power was most potent when they were gathered with care and used in acts of love and kindness, such as a Christmas feast to bring the Shire together. The Greenhill pudding, the elder explained, was not just a dish of delight. It was created to embody the spirit of community, of shared warmth and joy. Those who eat it feel a momentary connection to the heart of the Shire itself. Almaric listened, his mind racing. The task he had undertaken was no longer just a family tradition, but something far greater. He looked over at the oven where the pudding beat on, its gentle glow reflected in his wide eyes. The elder's tale carried weight, not as a burden, but as a gift of purpose. This pudding would be more than a dish. It would be a symbol of the Shire's enduring warmth. As the elder rose to leave, he paused by the door. "Remember, Almaric," he said with a smile, "it's not the ingredients alone that make the pudding special, but the care you've poured into it and the people you'll share it with. That is the true magic." With that, the elder disappeared into the snowy night, leaving Almaric with a sense of awe and a renewed resolve. He returned to the kitchen, tending to the pudding with even greater care, his heart lightened by the story he had heard. Whatever else the evening might bring, Almaric was ready to share a moment of magic with the Shire. The frosty evening deepened, and the warm glow from Almaric Greenhill's Hobbit hole spilled out into the quiet Shire. Inside, the kitchen hummed with soft activity, but Almaric couldn't ignore the elder Hobbit's tale about the starflower petals. The story had awakened a sense of wonder within him, and he felt drawn to learn more about the traditions and magic that surrounded the Greenhill pudding. After ensuring the pudding was baking safely, Almaric set out to visit an old friend, Meriadoc Bramblethorn, the Shire's unofficial historian. Meriador's snug home was lined with shelves overflowing with books and scrolls, all chronicling the history, folklore, and legends of Middle-earth. Almaric knew that if anyone could shed light on the origins of the Greenhill pudding and the starflower petals, it would be Meriadoc. "Ah, Almaric," Meriadoc exclaimed as he opened the door, his bushy brows raised in curiosity. "Out on such a wintry night, what brings you here?" As Almaric explained the elder Hobbit's visit and the story of Yavanna's starflower petals, Meriador's expression turned thoughtful. He shuffled to his shelves and began pulling out scrolls. "The starflower, you say? There's indeed a tale or two about it," he murmured, unrolling a faded parchment. "Ah, here we are." The parchment detailed an ancient story about the Valar Yavanna and her deep love for the creatures and plants of Middle-earth. It spoke of her desire to leave a gift for those who cherished the land. The star flowers scattered across the world were said to bloom only under the light of the stars, their petals imbued with the magic of joy and connection. But what truly captured Almaric's attention was a passage about a hobbit baker from long ago who had unknowingly used starflower petals in a festive dish. The resulting feast had been one of the most joyous occasions the Shire had ever known, uniting neighbors and friends in a bond that lingered long after the meal had ended. The baker's creation became known as the Greenhill pudding, and its recipe had been passed down through generations of the Greenhill family. Almaric felt a swell of pride and responsibility as he listened to Meriador recount the tale. "It's said," Meriador concluded, "that the magic of the star flower awakens most strongly when it is used in acts of generosity and love. I dare say, Almaric, you're on the brink of creating something truly special." The two hobbits spent the next hour discussing Shire traditions, the valor, and the deeper meaning of the Greenhill pudding. As Almaric prepared to leave, Meriador handed him a small, ornate jar of powdered cinnamon. This was once said to be grown in lands blessed by Yavanna herself, Meriador explained. "A fitting addition to your pudding, don't you think?" Almaric thanked his friend and stepped back out into the snowy night, the jar of cinnamon nestled safely in his pocket. The walk home was quiet and serene, the snow crunching softly beneath his feet. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was part of something much larger than himself, a continuation of a story that had begun long before his time. When he reached his hobbit hole, the warmth of the fire welcomed him back, and the sweet, spiced scent of the pudding filled the air. Sitting down at his kitchen table, Almaric carefully added a touch of the cinnamon to the pudding's glaze, feeling a deep connection to the hobbits who had come before him. As the Shire settled into its peaceful slumber, Almaric knew that his simple act of baking had taken on a meaning he had never imagined. The pudding, infused with the magic of the star flowers and the care of generations, would bring the hobbits together in a celebration of warmth, friendship, and love, a true reflection of the Shire's heart. The final hour before the feast arrived, and Almaric Greenhill stood in his warm kitchen, staring at the beautifully baked pudding cooling on the countertop. Its golden brown crust glistened with a glaze that captured the soft candlelight, and the delicate scent of spices filled the room. Yet, despite the pudding's perfection, Almaric felt a quiet tension. Was the magic of the starflower petals truly alive in his creation? Would it bring the joy and connection promised in the stories? As if in answer to his thoughts, the soft knock of his elderly visitor, Marden Took, came at the door. Almaric welcomed him in, offering a seat by the fire. The old hobbit carried a bundle wrapped in faded cloth. "A gift for your feast, Almaric," Martin said with a knowing smile, unwrapping the bundle to reveal a small vial of honey, shimmering faintly as though touched by starlight. This is from the bees of the western meadows, who are said to gather nectar under the stars. It may be the final touch you need. With the honey added to the pudding's glaze, Almaric felt a new wave of confidence. He carefully plated the dish, garnishing it with sprigs of mint and a few remaining starflower petals. The pudding now looked less like food and more like a centerpiece for a storybook. As the clock struck 8, hobbits from all around the Shire began arriving, their faces alight with anticipation. Almaric welcomed each guest warmly, and his home quickly filled with cheerful conversation and the sound of mugs clinking. The children were especially curious, sneaking glances at the pudding that sat proudly at the center of the dining table. When the time came, Almaric rose from his chair and gently tapped his mug for attention. "Thank you all for joining me tonight," he began, his voice steady and warm. "This pudding is more than a dessert. It carries the love of generations, the care of our Shire, and perhaps a touch of magic from Yavanna herself. May it remind us of the joy and connection we share." With that, he sliced into the pudding, revealing its soft, perfectly spiced interior. The first bite was served to Martin Took, who closed his eyes as he savored it, his face breaking into a smile. "Almaric, this is truly remarkable," he said. "You've captured the heart of the Shire in every bite." The pudding was served, and as each hobbit tasted it, a hush fell over the room, followed by murmurs of delight. The sweetness of the honey, the warmth of the cinnamon, and the subtle floral notes of the starflower petals seemed to wrap each guest in a blanket of comfort and joy. Conversations grew livelier, laughter rang out, and neighbors who hadn't spoken in years began reminiscing about old times. Outside, snow continued to fall softly, blanketing the Shire in a peaceful glow. Almaric watched the scene before him, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. The elder hobbit's tale of the star flowers had proven true. The pudding had indeed brought magic to their gathering, not in the form of spells or grandeur, but in the simple, heartfelt connections it had fostered. As the evening drew to a close, guests departed with warm hugs and kind words. Many carried slices of pudding wrapped in cloth, treasures to savor later. Martin Took lingered a moment longer, placing a hand on Almaric's shoulder. "You've done something special here tonight," he said softly. "Never forget that the magic of the Shire is not in its tales alone, but in the hearts of those who live them." When the last guest had gone, Almaric sat by the fire, his home quiet once more. The starflower petals, the tales of Yavanna, and the joy of his friends all swirled together in his thoughts. He placed the glowing pendant from Martin on the mantle, where it shone softly like a beacon of hope. As he drifted to sleep in his armchair, Almaric knew he had not only honored the traditions of the Shire, but had added his own chapter to its enduring story. And in the quiet night, the Shire rested, wrapped in the warmth of its hobbits' shared love and the magic of Christmas Eve. As the warm glow of lanterns dimmed and the last echoes of laughter faded, Almaric Greenhill stood at the doorway of his hobbit hole, gazing out at the quiet Shire. Snow blanketed the rolling hills, its pristine white glimmering under the soft light of the moon. The stars above twinkled like 1,000 tiny lanterns, a silent symphony of light against the dark sky. Almaric held a steaming mug of cider in his hands, its rich aroma blending with the crisp winter air. The evening's events replayed in his mind, the laughter of the children, the heartfelt stories shared by neighbors, and the way his festive pudding had brought everyone together. It wasn't just a feast. It was a reminder of what made the Shire so special. The simple joys of companionship, the warmth of a shared hearth, and the magic woven into everyday moments. Almaric's gaze fell on the glowing pendant that now rested on his mantle, a gift from Mardentook. Its faint light reflected the spirit of the evening, gentle, enduring, and filled with wonder. The story of the star flowers and their connection to Yavanna would stay with him, not just as a tale, but as a reminder of the quiet magic that lived within the Shire itself. He stepped outside, the crunch of snow underfoot breaking the silence. The Shire stretched out before him, its hills dotted with the faint glow of hobbit holes, each a sanctuary of warmth and peace. The cold air nipped at his cheeks, but it was a welcome contrast to the fire's heat inside. He walked a short distance to a hilltop where he could see the village below, its paths winding like a golden thread through the snowy landscape. From this vantage point, Almaric reflected on the meaning of Christmas Eve in the Shire. It wasn't about grand gestures or elaborate displays. It was about the small, meaningful moments that connected them all. The shared meals, the laughter, the quiet understanding between friends and neighbors. It was about the light that they brought to one another, even on the darkest of nights. Returning to his hobbit hole, Almaric felt a profound sense of peace. He placed his mug down and gently closed the round wooden door, shutting out the cold but keeping the warmth of the evening alive in his heart. The soft glow of the fireplace bathed the room in golden light, illuminating the remnants of the feast. Crumbs of pudding on plates, empty mugs, and a stack of gifts exchanged between friends. He settled into his armchair, a cozy blanket draped over him, and allowed his thoughts to wander. The pendant on the mantle flickered faintly, as if echoing the gratitude that filled the room. Almaric smiled, his heart full. "Good night, my dear Shire," He murmured softly, "May your light always shine." And so, my sleepy fellows, our tale comes to a close. As the Shire settles into the quiet embrace of the night, let its warmth and magic wrap around you. Rest well, and until we meet again, sleep peacefully under the stars.